Okay, so I'm just going to really quickly show y'all how you can go about seeing what's going on in the RDC, what people have done with the existing data sets, what's possible. So I'll start with census data sets first and census projects. So as you guys kind of gotten the idea now, there are multiple agencies whose data are hosted on the servers, and each agency has a different way of going about things. Census, who are the hosts of all this data, have a series of working papers. Anybody who does a census project has to submit a working paper about their project, and then it gets released to the public. I can see people writing, so I'll let you write down the link. So if you just go to CES's...
Is this information available on your website?
Yes, everything is, in fact, so my part of the presentation is a little interactive here, because I'm going to show you where you can go to find all these things. So the website for CES is census.gov/CES. This is where you'll go if you're doing a census-related project. And on this page, you can see it's already purple because I've been there already. Right there on their homepage is a CES discussion paper series. And if you click on it, it will take you to all of the projects that are using census data. Everybody has to submit a working paper. So anything that's going on in the RDC is going to be here.
And when you say that, you mean all RDCs nationally?
Yes.
Anything going on in any RDC. You want to know what's going on at Cornell, there'll be some hints here.
If they're using census data, they will be in here. So this is all well and good. You get the titles and you can see who's doing what. But we've also added an extra resource. Once again, this is all, and the slides will be posted, so you can use the links from there. We have a Mendeley group. Mendeley is this website where you can create bibliographies and just create a database of resources. We've created one for the working paper series. If you join our group, it's called CESWP. So go to Mendeley, create an account, look for the CESWP group. After you've joined us, you can go to My Library. All right, and I'm logged in as me right now. Under your groups, there you'll see CESWP. Give it just a second to load. We've done this. Yes.
And so,
but these are all
if you don't follow all the steps, you're just going to ask us to help, and we'll help.
So what we've done is we've taken all of the working papers in the series, and we've tagged them by what data sets they use. And so this allows you to not just look at titles, but also look, if you're interested in, for instance, the American Community Survey, go to My Tags. All right, so the acronym is ACS. I can click on that. Give it a second to think. And it'll pull up every paper that uses the American Community Survey for me. So I can see what people are doing with that data set. Let's say I'm interested in the LBD. Let's see. There's the LBD. And there's all the papers that have used the LBD. And another added benefit is that there's multiple tags. You can see this person used the LBD and the LEHD. This person used CompuStat and LBD. And then you can jump in and see what exactly they did with those data sets. So that's just to help you get an idea of what people are doing, how they're doing it, and what's possible.
When you do a literature review on projects as part of your proposal, the only literature, well, not the only, but the main literature they care about is prior literature on RDC projects. So you don't have to convince them you know everything about economics, but you do need to show familiarity with the work that's been done in the RDC network.
Yeah, so for instance, with my proposal, I didn't even have to really write a literature review because there weren't any projects in the RDC network that were doing segregation research. So, but if there are projects that have done what you're doing, you need to be able to talk about them. So they're all here, and you can search them by data set. And I'm sorry this is going so fast. I'm just trying to keep us on schedule here.
It's a lost cause.
So there's the link to the database, and then if you want to know more information, go to our Mendeley group and you can look at the data set. For the NCHS has a different way of doing things. They don't require a working paper, but what they do is, see if this works. This is why I don't like Internet Explorer. What they will do for you is that they'll let you know what publications have come out using their restricted data. And so on their website, the website for NCHS's RDC is cdc.gov/RDC. And you can go to the RDC user publications in the menu here and say I'm interested in the NHANES. Here are all the publications that have used the NHANES and have come out of their RDC network. So it's not, they don't keep track of, well, they don't tell you what projects are currently ongoing in the RDC, but you can see the finished product and see what people have done. And it'll also tell you, so you can look specifically at studies that have used genetic data, for instance. There used to be a table that would tell you the reason for using the restricted data, but it looks like they've changed that. But you can go in and look at these papers and find out what's been going on. So that's all there for you.
Well, and during this initial 5-year period to establish the RDC, we have funding that supports our graduate students. That's a resource available to you. A little hand-holding if you want to do this stuff yourself. It can help you get into it efficiently. And then specifically if you say, I'm really serious about a project, I'd like some help, we may be able to assign a student to you or put them on a task to help you get over a couple of quick questions so you can see if you've got a viable project.
Yeah, so for people who are interested in demographic products, I've actually pulled up publications and working papers for them and made an Excel list spreadsheet of things that they should look at if they want to go forward. So we can do things like that for you, but if you want to explore them for yourself, there are the links. Obviously, before you get into writing a proposal, you need to talk to Mark and Bethany, but if you want something to talk about before you get in the room, check this stuff out. This is about Mendeley, which I've already done. So then Maria's already talked about what census data is available and what's the most popular. But if you want to look and see what the other data products are, follow this link. This is back on the CES's website, so census.gov/CES. There's a link called Data Products at the top. And you can scroll down here, and they divide them up by economic, demographic, and then there's the LEHD, which is kind of its own species. So say I'm interested in demographic data. There's everything that's available, the unit of enumeration, what years are available, and if there's a sponsor other than Census, you can find that out here. So these are all data sets that are provided on the RDC servers. They're already available to you. But just know, and I'm sure this will be mentioned in the proposal development part, but just know that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't possible. So don't be discouraged if a year that you want or a data set that you want isn't on this list, because anything is possible. But this is what's already there, and these are the most simple things you could ask for because they're already on the servers. And then, just going back, you can also see all of the economic data. So these are all the economic censuses that you can't get them publicly, but they're here. The most popular, as Maria mentioned, are the annual survey of manufacturers and the census of manufacturers. Those are, being the one who coded all those papers with their data sets used, those are definitely the most popular. And you can see that they're all available here. And I believe all that we have left in this part is just showing you kind of what people have done, so I'll do that really quickly. For instance, Ingrid Ellen, who was actually just here in our discussion series and presented her work to us, uses the American Housing Survey. And most of the reasons for wanting to use the restricted data are very simple. Usually it's geography, especially with the demographic data. So her reason was that she needed tract IDs, and she's looking at neighborhood change. Let me full screen this so I can use my clicker. So then there's also migration work, and this is actually, migration work is actually kind of becoming a big thing because now you can get the ACS and get your previous residents in the year before. So these two are looking at, how people are dispersing. So their reason for needing the restricted data, not only did they need finer geography, but as Mark alluded to, the ACS, for instance, is a lot bigger on the restricted servers. So it's like twice the size of the sample you get that you download from the internet. So they wanted the larger sample of the ACS, and they also wanted detailed subgroups. So they were interested in the nationality of I believe it was Latinos and Asians. And so they could get those detailed national origin information with the finer geography and the larger sample. So that was a big benefit to them.
That geography is, at a minimum, it's block group to block group from year to year, and it may be block level.
Could be block level. I think block group though is.
If you've been a very good boy or girl, you may be able to get block level.
And on this one, so for hazard researchers, this one's really interesting. These were people who looked at the location of New Orleans residents after Katrina. And so once again, the location of previous residents 1 year ago was really interesting to them. It's something that you can't get in any useful way in the public data. And so it's usually just one thing that improves a project and makes it better in super duper ways. So for instance, my project, the only reason I need the restricted data is because I need block IDs. Everything else I could do with the public data. But it makes a huge difference to have that information. And then this one is also interesting because these people are looking at racial identity. And the reason why they needed it was, once again, the larger sample of the American Community Survey. And they also get detailed ancestry and race codes. So what that means is they get race responses before they're recoded by census. So that's something that's, if you're interested in racial identity kind of stuff, that's really cool.
I saw Carol give a presentation.
Oh yes, we saw her at PAA.
And she could tell you all the responses that she saw and all the issues she had to deal with, and it was figured out, here's how Census handled them, here's what they would mean within our framework. Yeah. Really cool.
So if you want help, looking stuff up, just email me and I will guide you through it. But the links will also be in the slides. And then I think, do you want to go through this or? Okay. So then there's also economic data, which I'm not as good at talking about. I'm not an economist. But the simple reasons for why they needed RDC data. Sorry, I'm not posting these slides. But these are economic and business data sets. So census of manufacturers, annual survey of manufacturers, the SSEL, which I believe is like the sort of the phone book of businesses. And these are all things that they could link together. And so, what was the benefit of this one? Here's something looking at housing prices. They wanted the longitudinal business database, as Maria mentioned. That's one of the much more popular economic data sets. And they could link everything with precise geocodes. So it all kind of goes back to geography. That's usually one of the main reasons. This one's also using LBD, looking at economic growth and entrepreneurship. This one, PACE is, I believe, the pollution abatement survey, annual survey of manufacturers, census of manufacturers, looking at environmental regulations and their effect on small businesses. And then this was a policy question. This one again is using LBD, looking at SBA loans.